Hey, welcome to my next video for Mind, Body, Soul Evolution. And for this next video, I'm being asked to share with you 3 examples from my path this lifetime of how light workers are often born into these challenging situations like I've mentioned in previous videos, but such that in some cases, like in mine, it prompted me to create a lot of shame emotions of shame around my gifts with a capital G, which I then decided to shut off and shut down effectively for years, okay, for years, because um, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with it. I was told that I was wrong, bad, or evil in several different ways, and in a lot of cases, it was connected to these gifts with a capital G. So, yeah. So I'm being asked to share how this occurred, in these 3 examples, specific examples throughout my lifetime, so that perhaps it may help you see how this does in fact occur, and that you're not crazy if it's happening to you, or be more understanding about those of us who have walked that sort of path. So, okay, so example number 1. Okay, moving on to, oh, and by the way, when I say light workers, I just want to clarify real quick that I am not talking about any one specific group, like just the indigos or just the rainbow warriors or just the crystal children or just the starseeds or only if you're from Sirius or Jupiter. No, 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 no. This is, it doesn't matter where or you're from or who you are. It's just what's in your heart with a capital H that matters. That's why I like to say that, because if you're here to help Gaia and her children during this great shift, this huge wave of awakening we're experiencing currently in this world, then you are what I am referring to when I say light workers, here to work with the light. Okay, so anyhow, moving on. Example number 1, experience number 1 was when I was born. Yeah, I was I was born into a hardcore Roman Catholic family in 1972, Spain, in right outside or in Madrid. Yeah, in Madrid, Spain. And at the time, Spain was like predominantly Roman Catholics, like 99.5% Roman Catholic. And things are different now. Things are, they've gone through a renaissance and things are all diversified, and it's very different now. But at the time, it was just the thing, that everyone did. And so, um, when I was born, my mother refused to put Maria on my birth certificate in front of my name. Um, and then the reason she did that, I didn't find out, until way later as an adult in life. About a year after that first angelic visitation, if you haven't seen that video, Saint Michael, Archangel Michael, came to talk to me on October 6th, 2007, and I made a video about it, and you're welcome to go check it out. It's my first angelic visitation. But if you don't, that's fine. But just know that it wasn't until I was a full-grown adult, and about a year after I had that angelic visitation with Michael, that I was able to share it with my mother and tell her that I had had this experience. And I was so worried she'd think I was crazy, I was a nut. But when I told her, she proceeded to tell me that it reminded her about how when she was 7 months pregnant with me, she had this experience in a chapel in Madrid, um, at the Santuario de Santa Gema. It's the sanctuary of Saint Gemma in Madrid. And She went in there. She was crying. She didn't tell me the reason why, but I know now. I've been shown, and I don't want to share right now, but but basically, she was crying, 7 months pregnant, and she was a teenager. She was 17 years old. She went into this chapel to pray to God, and a man walked in and apparently had this meaningful, moving, life-changing conversation with her that made her feel better about having me uh, as a 17-year-old in and having gotten pregnant while before she got married in a very strict old world traditional Roman Catholic Spain, where that was really looked down upon, okay, really frowned down upon, and thought of as like, oh, the it's just the baby is damned, so yeah, the baby is damned. That's actually how they felt about it, and some of my family members felt very strongly about that because she got pregnant out of wedlock. So so anyhow, I was already damned in some of my family members' eyes anyway. Then um, he told her to name the baby me in her belly after the saint whose chapel this was, Santuario de Santa Gema, Saint Gemma's sanctuary. That's how I ended up with this name, except in Spain, Gemma is with only one M. Where the original Saint Gemma Galgani, um, from Italy, was with two M's, but that's why my name is only Gemma with one M, because it was in Spain, and that's the Spanish version of her name. So anyhow, so he told her to name me after that saint, and there's a whole other story behind that about past lives and experiences past lives that I remember, that I've begun to remember in connection with that. But his name was Michael, she tells me. My mother tells me when I finally shared as an adult that I had this angelic visitation from Archangel Michael about a year after it occurred, I finally get the cojones to tell her, and she tells me in response about this story when she was pregnant with me, 7 months pregnant, and went into the chapel in Madrid in Santuario de Santa Gema. And so this guy, it struck her because his name was Michael. That this person, this man who walked in and had this conversation with her and told her to name me that. So then, because as a result, and because he told her to name me Hema and only that, nothing else as my name, nothing else. So because of that, as a result of that, when I was born, she refused to put Maria on the birth certificate in front of my name. And at that time in Spain, all female babies had to have Maria on the birth certificate in front of whatever name the family chose. Okay? And all males that were born had to have Jose, Joseph, Jose, whatever, Jose Maria, Jose, whatever, Jose, whatever. And if the family refused, like my mother did, to put Maria on the birth certificate in front of the baby's family chosen name, they apparently had a fit. And for a few months, priests refused to baptize me because of this, because of the sacrilege of the fact that my mother was refusing to put Maria on my birth certificate. So they refused, and at the time, in that setting, the mentality was that the reality is that there was something wrong with the fact that I wasn't baptized for that long, because they went through several priests who kept, priest after priest kept refusing to baptize me, only lending more further credence to the belief of some family members on both sides, my mother's side and my father's side, that this baby, me, is like something's wrong, like she's evil. Right? So I can laugh about this. Hey, I can laugh about this. Okay, so yeah, they did finally end up finding a priest who agreed to baptize me, a young priest, and I think I was like 4 or 5 months old, and so that's great, or whatever, whatever. The point is, that was the experience with just coming into this world. I was already labeled by several people as evil, and these family members, from what my mother tells me, actually came to when they encountered each other on the street, actually would argue with each other, and it came to blows about how intensely they felt about this whole issue. Okay, this is some intense shit. Okay, now, all right. So anyway, that's that example. Moving on to example number two. Example number two was fast forward to I'm 7 years old, and I had lived in Australia for years, and well, there's a lot to explain there, but I'm gonna skip forward. I'm 7, and my mother and I moved from Australia to Spain, and she was well, she was really unable to be a mother at the time to give me her best because she was going through whatever mental health issues she was going through, and so she went to go live somewhere else, and she left me, with at my grandparents' house for 4 years, from ages 7 to 11. And if you don't know, if you haven't seen my previous videos, my maternal grandfather was unfortunately a humongous psychopath. Like, I mean, when I say psychopath, yes, I'm talking about the clinical definition of a psychopath. So I'm not going to get into it, but some in this video, but it's yeah. Anyway, so as you can imagine, there are some inherent challenges, trials and tribulations that come with living with a psychopath as the patriarch in the household, the grand patriarch that everyone's supposed to bow down to, according to the uh, machismo that was intertwined into the cultural worldview of my family members at the time. Okay, so his authority went unquestioned, even though he was a true blue psychopath, for real. Um, Anyhow, one of the things that he did while I lived there from ages 7 to 11 was he could not stand as soon as he saw that I was a lefty. I was born a lefty, and he began to just out loud constantly say, whenever he saw me doing something, if I was writing or grabbing something, or whatever, he would say that's evil, that's bad, that's evil, you need to stop doing that, use your right hand. So it got to the point where I started to be punished by, if he saw me doing something with my left hand, I would have to write with my right hand like 500 times. I would have to write, I will never do that again with my left hand, like 500 fucking times. And I wasn't allowed to get up from the table until I finished that. I mean, these are the kinds of tortures I was actually subjected to, as I was being told I was evil in several different ways throughout my childhood, since birth. Because this was repeated over and over and over at me. I was labeled this way, repeatedly, outwardly, overtly. It wasn't like subtle. He out and out said I was evil all the time. Okay, so what's that's basically, he basically systematically forced me to, he did not stop until I was completely, in his eyes, a righty, until I did everything with my right hand, which slowly but surely he accomplished. He accomplished forcing me to change, to becoming predominantly a righty, which I still am to this day. I predominantly use my right hand, although there were a couple of things, for example, like cutting things during my meal. When I hold a knife and I cut things, if I need to cut something, I do it with my left hand. And I guess he never kind of caught that, so he never forced, and that just stuck. There's a few things like that he never kind of pointed out and caught, so I never was forced to switch, and I still do it with my left. So in a way, I'm ambidextrous, okay, almost, but I'm more righty now. Okay, so anyhow, and by the way, one of the benefits that I got out of that whole experience is that actually caused me to stimulate both hemispheres of my brain, and I guess stimulate the juices of my logical brain, not just my creative brain, because when I was a lefty, it was the right hemisphere that was all mostly activated and active and working. But because of this experience, I actually activated more of my brain. So, and I clearly have been able to see the benefits I've drawn from that. So if you're able to find the silver linings like that, that also helps, okay? Just putting that out there. Okay, and last but not least is the number 3, the third experience. And oh my gosh, this one is more recent, and so it's a little bit tough. But I'm just gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it before I chicken out. Okay. Yeah. Let me just take a breath. Yeah, let me take a breath real quick, like I like to do. Real deep breath into my belly, and then I'll proceed. Please bear with me and thank you. I appreciate your patience and understanding. 2 deep breaths. Okay, you can take 2 deep breaths with me, okay? In through the nose, out through the mouth. All the way down to the belly. Slow, deep, and steady. Ready? Cool. All right, so the last third experience. Okay. It was as recent as Christmas Day of 2017. Yes. So obviously I was an adult. Um, but basically, I'm sorry, this one's a little tougher, okay, honestly, but basically, I had gone through, filing a protection order from abuse against my now ex-husband, and I had walked away from it all. I refused to get a lawyer and fight for any, like half the division of property or money or whatever. I didn't give a fuck. I wanted to get out of that poisonous, toxic, awful environment that I allowed myself to be in for way too long. And I basically I don't even know how to explain how this happened. I mean, there would be a lot that I have to explain. Let me just tell you what happened on that Christmas day, okay? Yeah. So my mother and stepfather and family, largely most family members, had not been talking to me for months. And when they invited me over for Christmas Day, that Christmas of 2017, just 2 Christmases ago, um, I I saw it as an opportunity to reconnect and let bygones be bygones and let go, release of things that do not serve, and forgive and forget, and just kind of like make peace, and I wanted with all my heart for that to be the case, and for that to be what I was being invited over for, and to spend the holidays with my family who had shunned me for quite some time. And again, before you judge, you never judge a book by its cover. I'm not going to go into the explanation of why most of my family has shunned me at this back then, and at this still to this day. And that's for another video, okay? But that was the case, okay? So, but I was going there in the hopes that they were all ready to have an authentic, open conversation about how we can all begin the healing process as a family from all the deeply dysfunctional, traumatic things that had been kept hidden and under wraps in our family for so long. Because yes, that's a big, in a nutshell, that's a big part of the reason why most of my family shunned me, and still to this day is shunning me still, because I'm the first to say I'm not gonna be silent about the dysfunction, and I'm not gonna keep this quiet. I'm not gonna. I don't want to be a part of it. In fact, no. But yeah. Anyhow, so but I was hoping that that's why I was being invited, because everybody wanted to begin a conversation about healing for all of us, and that's all I wanted with all my heart. Okay, um, so I went, and I went, with my youngest son, whom I still live with, by the way. He's incredible. He's an amazing, beautiful soul that I am so grateful to have in my life, because I don't know what I would have done without him. My youngest son, Eric, oh, beautiful, amazing soul, shining the light that he is. Anyway, and he, at the time, he and I drove up to the family's place where everyone was coming together for the holidays, and it was a huge house, so it accommodated a lot of people, and a lot of people were there, and um, Eric and I went the night before on Christmas Eve, and then slept over. And then the following morning, when I was the first one up, because I was waking up very early and meditating already. I had already made the decision to go study at a Buddhist monastery, to go live and study at a Buddhist monastery for what I thought would be a year-long program. And I was excited. I was stoked to go, because I have three sons, and even though my whole marriage fell apart and everything, they're fully grown adults. My three sons. I have 25-year-old twins, and my youngest son Eric is 23 now, and they were, 2 years ago, they were 2 Christmases ago, they were fully grown adults, and living outside of the home already. So, uh, just so you know, uh, but I woke up in the morning, and I went to the kitchen to make myself a cup of coffee, and like I said, I was the first one up. It was kind of early. And I guess my mother and stepfather heard me stirring around down there, so they came down. Or actually, my youngest brother's girlfriend's toddler, her son, was awake. So, and my mother came down with this toddler, in her arms, and with my stepfather, and they walked into the kitchen and said that they wanted to talk to me. And honestly, from the tone, I was like, oh god, it's Christmas. I don't want to have a talk, like I just want to enjoy. I just want to be with the family. I just want to enjoy the reconnecting with everyone, So anyhow, they proceeded to get themselves a cup of coffee and sit down. And as I said, she still had this toddler in her arms. He was about, I don't know, about 3 or 4. And he was the son, like I said, of my youngest brother's new girlfriend. Yeah. Anyhow, so, and they were all over. They were, my youngest brother, my other brother, and everybody was there over at the house, a full house, my three sons and everything. And, but everyone else was sleeping still. Okay. So I sat at the table to have this talk that they wanted to have. And again, mind you, it's Christmas morning, early Christmas morning. Okay. And they got their coffee and they sat down across from me at the table, and they started to ask me why I had made this decision to go study go live and study at a Buddhist monastery. And I I said, look, I said, I know that it's hard for you to understand why I would be interested in doing something like that, but I am answering a calling with a capital C. I'm being called to refine my studies and understand certain things better so that I can develop spiritually in a way, in the way that I'm intending to, that I'm working on. I tried my best to explain it, that I felt like I was being called to do this, for various reasons, but and anyhow, they began to say that this is why I'm always the weird one in the family. I'm like, I'm the black sheep, the quote unquote black sheep of the family, that I just make weird, whack decisions, that nobody understands me, that I'm the only one who has problems, that blah, 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 which is bullshit because honestly, I'm not going to go into, there's no reason for me to go into their personal stuff, but I'm telling you right now, believe me, they each, my mother especially, and many of my other family members have many problems because none of them ever want to look at the problems. They all they want to stuff it down or brush it under a rug and act like it doesn't exist. And they've been doing this for years, and that's been the MO of the family for years. And so I'm not going to go into what, because that's not necessary here. But believe me, I'm not the only one that has issues or troubles or challenges or problems that I have to deal with in life or whatever in the family. But that's what they were saying to me. They were saying that they actually were using these words. They were saying that I was worthless, that I always made stupid decisions, that I made weird decisions and choices in life, that no one in the family understood me, and that like I'm the only one that ever had problems, and all that, all these things. And I was sitting there, and something kind of snapped. And for the first time in my life, I said the words, "Fuck you," to my mother and my stepdad. I've never cussed at them before. I've never raised my hand to them before. I've never. No, no. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it. But that's something that got pounded out of us to not even begin to think to disrespect our parents, okay? That was just part of it's a cultural thing, a very deeply ingrained cultural thing that I grew up with from Spanish culture, okay? So, and that's very strongly a part of Latino culture too, okay? So respect your mother and father, yes. So I never have used those words before, but I did. And it's I don't know how to tell you how I feel about that, because I have mixed feelings. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I don't feel too bad, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, moving on. I think it was maybe time for me to say fuck you to them. I'm so, I'm sorry, but not sorry, because yeah. So anyway, yeah, I said fuck you. Okay. And really, okay, maybe there were better ways that I could have handled that. However, it was a long time coming. Okay. And the reaction though was, um, my mother, she flung the hot coffee at me and lunged at me and started beating me, started pounding on me, like lost her shit and started pounding. And I'll have you know that she did this with the toddler in her arms. But I'm the one who's crazy? Question mark. Okay. So anyhow, I and make a long story short, I deflected as best I could. I ran off. She chased me. My stepdad actually took the toddler out of her arms, and then which only helped her to run even faster after me. And she did land some blows. I kept running. It's kind of weird, around in circles around this the central structure. It's a big house. Of these stairs, the main entrance stairwell coming down. I ran around it like 3 times with her coming after me, hitting me and beating me. Finally, I stopped and I turned and I put my hand on her face. Like I actually like put my hand on her face just so that she could not see, so her view would be obstructed, so that she would stop landing punches and hits and scratches on me. That's literally that's why I did that. I turned around and went like this so she wouldn't be able to see, and so she proceeded to grab me and pull me down to the floor with her. This is crazy. Sounds like some fucking WWF fight. Okay. Anyway, she pulled me down on the floor with her, and I kept trying to like to pull off away from her, and she scratched my arm up during the yes, my mother scratched my arm up, and then at that moment, my youngest son Eric, I guess with the scuffle, um, people started waking up in the house, and my youngest son ran up the stairs and came over to where we were, and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Mom, let's just go. Let's just leave. Let's just go." And he grabbed me and grabbed took me, pulled me, and thank God, Goddess, for Eric, for my youngest son, for many, 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 many reasons. But anyhow, yeah, that was Christmas Day of 2017, and she and my stepdad and everyone else in the family there, still to this day aren't speaking to me, um, and are very angry because they stopped talking to me months before that Christmas because I had asked and begged for them to please come to therapy sessions with me to deal with the roots of the trauma that were causing me to be trapped in these paradigms of cyclical domestic violence that I wanted to break free from, and I was starting to seek help with, and to better understand, even though I know this sounds crazy because I myself have had extensive training in the mental health field, in mental health counseling, and believe it or not, yeah, and I've actually worked as a mobile therapist for adolescents and pre-adolescents that have mental health issues. So I actually have extensive knowledge about this, and still, therapists need therapists too, okay? And light workers need to learn to shine their light despite these built-in obstacles that we often are born into, that are there to help us understand how to be strong beyond these obstacles. That's the significance, the importance of these kinds of things occurring and being placed. And yes, in large part, we also helped to choose and select and design our lifetimes that we incarnated into, so that we would have these obstacles and these tests and trials and opportunities. That's what they are, opportunities to for them to serve as soul food rather than a soul cell, like a jail cell. It's for us to learn to how to push through and break through these obstacles, and rise as we are intended to rise and truly shine like the light workers we are here to shine as. So okay, so that's been my share, those 3 examples of how and because as a result, I like I said, the one from birth and as a child served to, along with other things that happened in my life, served for me to effectively shut it all down for years. But even though I I didn't want to develop or tap into or go within, and I was too scared to look at my own, like I said, gifts with a capital G. I still, and I shut it all down. They still kept coming at me. Like I still would have precognitive dreams left and right. I still astral traveled left and right. Still many things throughout my life would just kept coming at me, no matter how hard I pushed away. So that's another thing to keep in mind, that you got to stop running sometime. You got to look at who you really truly are sooner than or later, right? So why not make it sooner? And because actually I'm learning more and more, it's much more fun to feel empowered than to feel like a slave or jailed or silenced, right? So thank you for joining me, and thank you for listening to my 3 examples from my path. And I hope it helps someone out there to see how these things can happen, and how to maybe to see how someone, in this case me, has been able to overcome these things and has been able to push through onto the other side to feel empowered by the knowledge and the wisdom gained now. Okay, so thank you very much, and much, much, much love and light from my heart, as always, with a capital H. And see you next time.